3, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Tuesday Night Squad. I'm your host, Horatio Wellington, and tonight we're watching the Russian ground forces take on the Canadian army. The Canadians aren't really a force to be feared, and all estimates show that the Russians are going to take this handily, with constant budget cuts to such the extent that the Canadian Air Force, once proud and mighty, is now one of the smallest in the NATO alliance. All that means that the Russians, even with their consistent underperformance in the field despite high levels of equipment, well, they've still got a massive advantage here, and it's very unlikely that they lose. So if they do, we should shame them. Now, all that is, of course, interesting. However, let's talk about the infamous tragedy that occurred last night. Now, as you guys all know, Boris Shchernikov, the oldest player on the Russian team at the ripe old age of 106, passed away. The veteran hat player, despite losing both his eyes in the Crimean War, he was still able to hit those targets. I could imagine. With the highest AKB
Shut the fuck up, you 14-year-old bitch.
All that and more tonight here on Tuesday Night Squad, brought to you by Bad Dragon Dildos.
So Squad is going through a little bit of an upheaval in the Milsim community thanks to the introduction of microtransactions now into the game that they said that they will be implementing into the near future. Now this has caused an absolute ruckus amongst everybody who has been playing the game, and most people seem to absolutely hate it. And I've been noticing on Steam that they're declaring it to be the absolute downfall of this game, and that it is time to move on to greener pastures, because how dare Squad introduce microtransactions into their games in the form of hand signs and emotes. Now, usually I am someone who is absolutely against these kinds of microtransactions. Generally speaking, I think that they can spell the death signs of a video game, mainly because then the developers get very much focused on just implementing ways to nickel and dime the community and fan base. Look at Darktide as an example. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Fat Shark. You guys need to do better. But in the case of Squad, I don't actually see that that is the case. And there's a few reasons for that. One of the main ones is that this game has been out for a number of years, like half a decade, I think, or something like that by this point. It's been a while. And they have not charged for anything outside of the initial base cost of the game. Now, back in the day, that used to be expected, and that was okay. And even now, I think that it is good that they have stuck to this model for so long. However, I think that there is an important thing to note here, and that is that Squad has provided us more than like God knows how many maps and factions, all for free for its community, simply out of the goodness of its heart, essentially, and because they want to present and create a product that is useful to us. And it's one that we will want to continue to play for months, if not years on end. Now, we have gotten thousands or hundreds of hours of content out of this shooter for years now, and for me anyway, it has become the main replacement for games like Battlefield, and it's really the only kind of shooter that I will play now after I got introduced into it. And so, for me, the hundreds and hundreds of hours that I've managed to pull out of this game for a fraction of the cost of what it might cost, to buy something like Battlefield at $70 or $60, or Call of Duty at the same price, I managed to get Squad for like 30 or 20, I think, when it came on sale years ago. So, for me to pull so many hours out of this game, I have definitely felt like I've gotten my money's worth. And I think that it's important for us to remember that these studios still have developers that need to eat as well, and they need to be funded and backed. Yes, they did end up joining Tencent, and so I can definitely understand why a lot of gamers will be like, oh, well, since Tencent bought them, now we have to expect microtransactions at the ass, and the game is no longer going to be user-friendly. And that is definitely possible. It's definitely possible, and that can happen. However, I don't think that this is the moment to sign the death nails of Squad and to say that these developers are terrible and that it's time to move on to greener pastures. The Squad definitely has some problems that it needs to fix, Absolutely. However, I think that when you think about how much content they have provided for us for a fraction of the cost of what it would be for any other AAA studios, I think that they should really be commended for that. And this isn't me trying to like shill for these, like this publisher or these developers. No, I hate microtransactions as much as the next person does. However, I do still think that it is important to remember how much time and how much quality we've gotten out of this game for the initial $40 price tag, which I think maybe is $60 now. I don't even know if it is. I think it's still at like 40. I don't know. I'll have to go back and check. But I think that it's important to remember that. So anyway, I'm just repeating myself. I think that this is the equivalent of me giving a Steam post to the response to these emotes. As long as they don't start putting in ridiculous things that you'd expect in like Fortnite or Rainbow Six, which I think is the knee-jerk fear, then I think that we're going to be okay. I do understand why everybody here is very vigilant in wanting to make sure that Squad does not go down that path, and I think that it is important that we do. I think that it is important that as a community we talk about what we are willing to accept as microtransactions and what we are not. And if Offworld Studios is, I believe that's the ones who made it. I haven't even checked. I haven't done my homework before I started making this video. This is just kind of my rambling thoughts. But as long as Offworld Studios is willing to listen to its community and its fan base, I think that we should be a little bit more forgiving to these developers and what they are trying to do so that they can make sure they keep the lights on. And so that Tencent, even as a publisher that bought up some of its stock, sees a return on their investment. It doesn't need to be huge. It doesn't need to be something that is going to rake in millions, but it definitely does need to make sure that it keeps churning out a profit. As long as it does, that is how we're going to continue to see new content for the game, new factions added, new maps added, things of that nature. Making games is expensive, and I think that, you know, in certain circumstances, it is okay to accept a little bit. And I think that as a community, we should give them a little bit here. So anyway, that's just my two thoughts. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Feel free to comment it down in the comment box below. I'm sure that I will have a ton of opinions about this, but let's try to keep it civil and fun and friendly. And I will see you all in the next video. I probably plan on making a actual Squad video soon because, yeah, I like Squad, and I haven't talked about it for years, even though I play it like every day. So anyway, that's all. Bye guys, have a good one.
Hey, I think I will give Bravo Fireteam Lee whoever knifes the announcer.
Oh, here we go.
No. Yes. So young.
Oh, I love that. That was beautiful. That was
Medic.
Yo, can you get him up?